I'm Mark Bell, and you catch me on my 10-minute walk. Something I wanted to share with you guys. I'm really trying to, in this kind of second half of my life, 43 years old, I'm working on lifting people rather than just lifting weights. And one of the ways I'm going to lift people is to teach people how they can become more rational. I think a big problem that we're faced with is reacting with our feelings. I personally feel that feelings and emotions a lot of times lead to irrational thought, and you could even make an argument that feelings and emotions are irrational to begin with. Something I've found to be helpful is to work on editing yourself. And what I mean by that is, the next time you get really mad, you get really pissed off, you can either talk into your phone, into your phone's memos or notes, or you can write. Now, when you do your memos or notes, or when you write, I want you to use as much description as you can about your frustration, and I want you to let out whatever expletives might follow. And if you think about this, these are probably things that you've done many times in your life with your significant other, with a coworker, with someone that you know who's a friend or family member. You probably said, that's it. I'm going in there and I'm going to tell them that this isn't right. This is bullshit. I can't believe I'm being treated this way. I am absolutely furious. I'm not taking this anymore. You can go over all these things, right? Once you did that, I want you to go back. I would like you to cross out those extreme words. I'd like you to cross out some of those expletives. I'd like you to get rid of some of those feelings. Now look at what you have written. Does what you have written make sense? If it doesn't make sense, replace the feelings, replace the expletives with facts. You see what I'm saying here? So let me try to give you a scenario. Let's say I was super pissed off at somebody because I set up a date to meet them somewhere to have a meeting. Okay, so let's say I'm supposed to meet somebody at Phil's Coffee at 7 a.m. and they no-show. Maybe this person has a history of doing that. Maybe they've done it in the past. Maybe we'll just say it's my oldest brother. You say he's still around. He had a tendency to do these things, right? He was a drug addict. And many people listening to this right now will understand the frustrations in dealing with someone who's addicted to drugs. So I'd say, hey, let's meet at 7 a.m. and he doesn't show up, right? I'm irate, I'm pissed. And because I'm mad, it drums up feelings of other things, other times where I feel he acted inappropriate or didn't follow through on something. And so it brings up a lot of stuff that has been unsaid for many years, right? And now I'm really frustrated. Well, if you take that to a pen, if you take that to a piece of paper with a pen and you write it out, I could say, Mike, I'm sick and tired of you acting this way. This is complete bullshit. I cannot believe the way you treat other people. I cannot understand or believe why you think your time is more important than other people's time. Whatever the various frustrations are that I have, and I can say, you've been this way for a long time, and all that, right? Then I could go back and I can look at it and I can say, are my brother's actions common with someone that has a drug addiction? Yep. Could I write to him in a better way? Could I communicate to him in a better way? Could I talk to him in a better way? Could I say, Mike, I think the reason why you miss a lot of these appointments, the reason why you don't have a job, the reason why you need help from family members and so on, is because you have an addiction and that you need help. That's a way different conversation than calling somebody a motherfucker, isn't it, right? And you could see how many times in your life, sometimes it won't be your own brother, so you're gonna love your own brother regardless. I love him. I'll always love him, even though he did a lot of things in his life that I'm not super pumped about. I love him. When I think about my brother, it makes me happy. It doesn't make me sad, it makes me happy. It doesn't make me mad, it makes me happy. Because my brother had a lot of cool and fun traits, and I tend to want to remember more of those things than some of the more hurtful times and stuff like that. But anyway, I would love for you guys to practice that. I'd love for you to give that a shot. Next time you're mad or you're sad, write down what's going on. I know it might sound a little silly to some of you, because especially as dudes, we're not supposed to be in touch with our feelings. But I think that you can learn to not necessarily be in touch with your feelings, but to feel your feelings right as they happen, the second they happen. Boom, the second they happen. You feel them and you go, wait a second, what's that? Why am I feeling this way? Because my girlfriend stood me up. Or why am I feeling this way? Because somebody said something that was racist to me. Somebody said I was fat and I got offended. What did you get offended by? What did you get triggered by? What triggered it? Where is that in you? Where is that trigger? Should you have one? Should you be a weapon? Right? The only things that have a trigger are weapons, right? Should you be a weapon? Should you be a weapon that all of a sudden you can get aimed in a specific direction and shot off somewhere? I don't think that you should be. I think you should be a human. I think that you should be able to think about your thoughts, and you should be able to think about your feelings. And before your feelings and emotion turn into a reaction, you can do something about it, no matter how wild and crazy it is. No matter how wild and crazy it is, you have control over your interpretation, how you frame and even reframe, go back in time and reframe some of the things that you once thought. But this editing procedure, going in and editing, auditing stuff that you once thought, beliefs that you once had, going in there and editing that shit with some real fact can really help you out of situations, and it can just help you go from irrational to rational. When you go to rational, you're going to be able to think better about a particular situation, and you're going to be able to make a better decision and make a better choice. Let me know what strategies you guys have. What are you working on? What's been helpful for you? What's been a tip that you can think about when you think about being led by your feelings? What are some things that have worked for you? For me, it's been deleting Instagram has been really helpful. But a lot of things I teach, and a lot of the things that I'm trying to instill in a lot of you guys in this mentorship program, that's what this YouTube channel really is all about. If you didn't know, I'm letting the cat out of the bag now. That's what it's all about. In this mentorship program, and in what we're trying to do here, I'm not trying to have you avoid more stress. I'm trying to teach you how you can deal with an insurmountable. I'm trying to have you be able to deal with an unlimited amount of, we'll just call it stress. Now, stress doesn't have to be negative, because lifting weights is a stress too, right? So stress is neither good nor bad, it just is. And you should be able to handle all of it. However, if you find that social media is something that encourages you to go down a road of negativity, then you have to close down that road somehow. Social media shouldn't do that to us, because it's just an interpretation. You can interpret social media to be good, you can interpret it to be bad, or you can interpret it as it is, which is it's neither good nor bad, it's just how you make it out to be. But if you find it being bad for you and for yourself at the moment, you have to figure out what to be able to do with it from there. For me, what I've learned is I have a hard time not taking the bait. I have a hard time not seeing violence. I have a hard time not seeing certain things perpetuated and then I have a difficult time once I see those things. If I see a little glimpse of those, I have a hard time abstaining from clicking on those things. So I deleted it, and that's been massively helpful to me. What's going to be helpful to you is simply reframing your thought process around it. You know, what's reasonable for you? How long is it? Like, how many times are you going to look at social media in a day? How many times have you made a post on Twitter and then made a post, on Instagram, and then went back and forth between the two, waiting to see like the response, and then you check out your YouTube channel or your YouTube video, or you check out the comments of this thing, and then you check out the comments, and it's like you're playing social media ping pong, and it's making you crazy, and it's going, your emotions are going like this, and they shouldn't be going like that at all, because we should know how to regulate all that. But think about, from an evolutionary standpoint, how many people are we supposed to interact with in a day? How many people are we supposed to be able to communicate with in a day? Probably not that many. 100, 200, 50? I don't know. Probably not in the millions, right? And probably not at the state at which we get smashed with all of it, you know? So these are all things to consider. How do we deal with it since it's here? The way to deal with it is not necessarily just to get rid of it, not necessarily drop it forever, but we do have to figure out a way to be a little bit more reasonable with it. Anyway, go back and edit some of the things, some of the feels that you got. You could end up finding it to be really helpful for you, regardless of how bad the situation is. So you can take any situation, no matter how horrific, and you can try to apply some logic to it. Sometimes all that will spit back to you, I'm going to warn you of this, sometimes all that will spit back to you is more irrational thought. And that's what happened to me with my brother, is that I was trying to apply rational thought to an irrational person, and it hurt me almost every single time. But it helped me in the long run, because I always gave my brother a chance. I always gave him an opportunity. And even though he was always irrational, I understood that he was also mentally ill. He was bipolar. So sometimes in this world, for whatever reason, like, things aren't always going to come back and make 100% sense, but you'll need to figure out how to safeguard yourself against that as well. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. Catch you all later.